Hey there, it's Dan Barrett from AdWords Nerds and wanted to make this video about why we start with research, understanding ladder theory. This is absolutely huge for understanding how our SEO approach is going to differ from a lot of other agencies. Most people, when we start working with them and we tell them that we're going to probably spend at least 2 weeks on market research, they get a little antsy because most of us, when we hire a service provider, we want to see activity. We want to see work, right? We want to see things getting done. And research feels like it's work, right? But it doesn't feel as useful as everything else. It's actually the exact opposite. The reason we can be so successful with the search engine optimization that we do is precisely because of the research we do and because of our understanding of ladder theory, which is completely misunderstood and usually not even known about at all in online marketing circles. Let me explain what I mean by this. First thing you got to understand is that the way most companies do SEO is broken. It is literally broken, right? What do I mean by that? Well, most agencies are going to use a cookie cutter approach. They're going to do the same basic process for every client and every market, right? You're going to get, this is like when you sign up, they say exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get 5 links and you're going to get 4 pages optimized and you're going to get this, you're going to get that. And it really ignores the fundamental truth that every market is different. So even if you're just working with investors, which is what we do, every single market varies so much. Houston is such a different market from Austin, which is a different market from Boston, which is a different market from, let me try to think of another city that rhymes with Austin and Boston. I can't, but. And then even within those markets vary a lot. Houston's a great example. Houston was a certain market a year ago, and now after the flooding that happened this year in Houston, it's a very different market now. Even if you're in a market without storms or weather or anything like that, your market's going to vary from week to week depending on what your competition is doing, depending on what the housing market is doing, literally depending on whether it's sunny or cold out. So there's no such thing as the same approach working for every single market. This approach is easier for the agency, for the optimizers. It's easy if you can just make it a template and then you can train everybody to do it and it's easy peasy lemon squeezy, but it's actually worse for the client because they don't get that kind of custom work, right? And the thing to understand is that when you ask companies about this, what they're mostly going to say is that they're using best practices, right? Well, there are best practices for SEO. It's you need to have a certain number of citations and a certain number of links, and all that's true, right? Best practices are great. But the thing to understand about best practices is that best practices is another word for common knowledge. When we say best practices, we mean this is the common knowledge of what is supposed to be working or good in our industry, right? And there's a problem with that. I'm going to quote Margaret Heffernan here. She said, one of the sad truths about leadership is that the higher up the ladder you travel, the less you know. The higher up the ladder you travel, the closer you get to the top, the closer you get to the biggest companies in this space, the biggest investors, the companies spending the most on ads and most on SEO. The higher up that ladder you go, the less you know. What do we mean by that? Well, what's common knowledge? It means that everybody knows it. And what everybody knows to be good, everybody does, which means that everything that is common knowledge is by definition overused. Everybody has it, which means no one has an advantage. If you know that you're supposed to get 20 citations and I know that and the other guy knows that, guess what? We all go and get 20 citations and we have stayed exactly level with each other. Now, top level companies don't share their methodologies. If I'm doing 10 deals a month or 10 deals a week off of SEO, do you think I go online and I tell everybody how I did that? No, I don't share the stuff that got me to the point where I'm doing 10 deals a month. So what is common knowledge is usually not the highest performing stuff because the people that figure out the highest performing stuff don't share it. What does this mean? It means that common knowledge, what is common knowledge in an industry, is not going to have a big impact in a competitive market like real estate investing. If you know you need a certain number of links, and I know you need a certain number of links, and he knows he needs a certain number of links, we all do that, and we all stay exactly the same relative to each other. Meanwhile, the people that figure out the stuff that really makes the difference, the stuff that really pushes them out ahead of the pack, they don't share that stuff, and therefore that stuff is not common knowledge. When everyone's ladder is the same height, no one gets any higher than anyone else. This is the unspoken truth of search engine optimization. It's true of pay-per-click management. It's true of everything. What is common knowledge gives you no advantage. You have to do what is different from everyone else in order to get outsized results. Now, if you're in a market like, I don't know, you're like a local pizza shop, you really don't need to do much, right? You just need to check the boxes and do your Google Maps and do this and do that and do what's common knowledge, and that'll be fine because it's not that competitive. But if you're a real estate investor, it's competitive. You stand to make a lot of money when you do a deal, which means there's a lot of people coming into that market. A lot of people want to do what you want to do. A lot of people want to optimize their website, and they all go out and do the exact same thing, which is find out what the best practices are, what's the common knowledge, and they do that. And then they wonder why they don't actually move ahead of the pack. And it's because everyone has a ladder that's the same height, right? So what's the answer to this? Well, the answer is a research-based methodology, which is exactly what we do. And we pioneer this approach in real estate investing. And this is based off just a phrase that I love, right? Which is don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. I'm not going to go and ask a leading real estate investing company how they got where they got. I'm not going to go online and search like best SEO tips because I don't care what people say. I care what they did to actually rank. And so what we do is we start with a very tight portfolio of keywords that we base off all the paid traffic data that we generate, and we reverse engineer what's already worked in your specific market to rank for those keywords. We find everybody's ranked for those keywords. That's where we want to be. And we spend literally weeks reverse engineering everything they did. How many links? Where do those links come from? How many pages? How dense are the keywords on those pages? What is the interconnected sort of network between all those pages? We look at third-party sites. We look at the kinds of websites that they run. What systems do they run on? We look at the page speed. We look at literally hundreds of data points per page, per competitor, to figure out exactly what they have done. What was their mix of techniques and tactics that got them to rank? They're already ranked. It already worked. We don't have to guess. Google shows us what works in that market. We just have to do the work to figure out exactly what it is. Then all we have to do is build a longer ladder, right? We got to do what they did, but we got to do it better and we got to do it more frequently. And if we do that, we will rank because we already know what worked. We're just saying, hey, this is what worked. I'm going to do that plus 10, plus 20, whatever it is. It's the fastest way to get results because there is no guessing process. There is no trial and error. We simply look at what Google already told us to do, and we do it plus one, right? And that's the research-based methodology. This is why we start with research and why we spend so much time on it. It's why we get results faster than most other companies. And it's because we understand this ladder theory. I've seen it in the marketplace. The best thing you can do, if you actually want to make a difference, you want to really boost your rankings, you want to really get more leads, you really want to move ahead of the pack, the best thing you can do is come up with original techniques and tactics rather than doing what's common knowledge, because common knowledge keeps you with the pack. We want you to move ahead of the pack. Hope that makes sense. If you got any questions, let me know, and I will talk to you in the next video.